Hi guys, thanks for coming. Today I'm going to talk about how I might have lost some money recovering from a catastrophic failure from the Lightning node. So, really briefly, I'll just talk a little bit about some of the core topics. So, really quickly, Bitcoin is digital money. I think we all know that, but instead of it being like money that is just digital, it's actually money that was designed from a computer science point of view. So just like the internet, it's going to be scalable, it's going to be extendable. And one thing that we built on top of that is the Lightning Network. So what is the Lightning Network? The Lightning Network is the scaling solution for Bitcoin, which trades passive. So effectively, it's making a trade-off of passive security as opposed to like when you have your funds on a specific address, for example. Then you can leave it there. It's cold. You don't need to have a computer or anything to look after it. So Lightning Network trades that type of security off for peer-to-peer payments, which is faster and immediate. You know, doesn't really rely on a blockchain. So, yeah, and what is a Bitcoin? And also, yeah, the Lightning Network relies on a Bitcoin node. So, what is a Bitcoin node? So it's just a computer with some Bitcoin software. And then on top of that will be a Lightning node, which is, I'm going to describe basically what my setup is. And a Lightning node is a computer, or maybe the same computer with Lightning software, different software, which relies on Bitcoin software, which will then do all of the Lightning Network protocol stuff on your behalf. So why would you run a Bitcoin node? Why would you run a Lightning node? I won't go into why you run a Bitcoin node. I think there's a few different answers there. But for a Lightning node, maybe you need like a server that's going to be online active, and you want to be able to. Well, for me, it was kind of a pet project. But also, I have an app on my mobile phone which actually would connect to the server, and I could make Lightning payments through that way, and I just knew that I was managing and running well on the Lightning node. And the other thing that my node was doing, it was a routing node, I suppose, yeah. Which means it was kind of stuck in the middle of the network, and it was facilitating payments for other people. It was part of that peer-to-peer network, and it was contributing. And I was actually earning fees, like minuscule fees, probably like less than pennies, but like I said, it was really just a pet project for me. So it's October 21st, and I'm out with my cousins at a wedding. This is like a pre-party with some drinks, and I noticed a notification on my phone. Pencilvesta has become unavailable. So it turns out I have a little I have a Telegram plugin on my phone, which basically monitors my computer, or monitors a channel on my node, and tells me if it's kind of not working anymore.
So
obviously I leave it. Huh?
Who comes up with K? That's the question.
You got it?
Sorry.
So my first reaction is it's fine. It's running LND, by the way. That's the software that I'm running on my computer. But it happens every now and again. It's no biggie. Usually after a few minutes, it comes back online. The problem could be that the service provider that's telling me that it's down, their servers might be down. Sometimes that happens. Or also because I run exclusively over Tor, and right now Tor is being a little bit hit and miss.
DDoS?
Yeah, it's being DDoS, so it's a little bit unreliable. That could have been another factor. It'll probably come back in a few hours. That was my first reaction. So by the end of the night, or actually I think it was the next day, I decided to go and check what's going on. It's still kind of remote, but I was able to use, I have a VPN that can connect to my home network, and I can log on. And I used SSH to log in, and the first command I write is ls/mount/HDD, which is effectively where the hard drive is supposed to be mounted. And it's empty. That's weird. I was expecting there to be some more folders and more files. Okay, so something kind of.
Question, so you were running this like on a VPS or like on a Raspberry Pi something?
I'm running on a Raspberry Pi, and it's connected to my home network.
Right.
I just so happen to have also a VPN client running within my home network. So my first thing is something weird's gone on, but okay, let me just remount all the drives. So this command sudo mount -a would go and remount everything that should be mounted in terms of hard drives and external things that should have been mounted. This is very much into stuff. Yeah, Linux stuff. And I got some errors. Well, that's weird. Okay. Last thing. Let me just reboot. And then I realized, fuck, because now I can't even SSH into the machine. It's not actually booting up anymore. So I just have to wait there. I just when I get home, I'll wait later. So a few days later, I do a little physical inspection. So I've got a Raspberry Pi on a wooden. That was my setup, and that silver thing here. That was my hard drive, and it was kind of attached to this plastic thing, just held up with an elastic band. The elastic band melted, and it just had fallen. So that was weird. It was hot to the touch, so I turned it off. And there was no light activity either. So anyway, I tried a series of turning it on, checking it. It would get really hot really quickly, which is not normal, and also the lights weren't working. I opened it up, checked it, tried to plug into another computer. Basically, definitely the hard drive is the thing that blew up.
What brand was this?
What brand?
What was it called?
The hard drive?
Yeah.
It was an Intel 660p 1 terabyte M2.
Did you get this from like did you have it in an old laptop and you repurposed it, or like?
No, I bought it from eBay. It was it happened to be the cheapest 1 terabyte SSD I could find, and when I was setting it up, I wasn't really, yeah. That could be probably a factor. I got the cheapest SSD I could find.
I mean, Intel is like a good company, so I wouldn't say so.
But yeah, so my initial thoughts were, first of all, is it the enclosure? But there was no way for me to test it. I have nothing that would take that. But I'm pretty sure it is the SSD and not the enclosure. It's not this casing that I bought to plug it in over USB.
So is that a battery on top there?
I do have a battery on top, yes.
Is that like a power backup in the event that, like, what does that do?
Yeah.
Kind of unrelated to what you're talking about, but I'm curious.
Yeah, sure. I had that as a UPS, uninterruptible power supply.
Okay, so if like power went out or something?
Yeah, it would keep running.
All right, that's good to know.
So you had like a tiny UPS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's designed for the Raspberry Pi. I found one, plugged it in, set it up.
How much was this?
I can't remember.
In the tens of dollars or like more than the hundreds?
Not in the hundreds. It would have been something maybe like $20.
Gotcha.
So okay, I need to, but there happen to be some Bitcoin on there. So not your keys. There's the famous phrase saying not your keys, not your coins. Well, obviously I have my keys, so my keys, my coins, right? So now I think it's a good time to talk a little bit about Lightning, but the Lightning includes a hot wallet. So there is some funds on chain which I have immediate access to, and I can withdraw that. But in order for the Lightning Network to do what it does, to make these peer-to-peer payments, we start creating these things that are called co-owned channels. And these are effectively like a smart contract between myself and another Lightning node operator, another person running maybe a little computer like this, or maybe even a server somewhere. And there's like thousands of us out there, and we're just sort of connecting to each other. And I'm creating a smart contract that basically says, okay, we're going to put some money into one Bitcoin address. It's a multi-sig Bitcoin address, and we're going to keep track somewhere else about who owns how much of that Bitcoin, so that later on we can settle. And while it's in that address, we can keep changing that that balance between us constantly, and that's what the Lightning Network does, and it does it in a way that is kind of gives you some guarantees that you can't defraud them and they can't defraud you. So part of that contract is each individual is responsible for keeping track, and I've underlined the word volatile here, but the state of your channels. I've written volatile because if you're making constant payments over that channel, or if you're facilitating payments over that channel, then the balance is constantly fluctuating. You know, sometimes they have more, sometimes you have more. Another feature that I was using actually at the time was watchtowers. So there are people online who provide a watchtower service. And what that allows you to do is while your computer's off or turned off or offline for some reason, like now, if the other person notices that I'm offline and then decides to defraud me, normally it would be my own node that would be responsible for going, that guy's trying to cheat you, let's penalize that guy and take the money from him, as per the rules of the protocol. Watchtowers would do that on my behalf instead, which is kind of nice. Another one thing I noticed as well, so when it comes to if your node is offline and you literally have no way of getting it back up, then you have this thing called the data loss prevention protocol, which is just a way. It's a protocol which describes a way that you could communicate with the other guy and say, hey, let's close up. I don't have the data on my end, but I'll trust you to do it. It's pretty crap because, well, first of all, you're trusting the other person, and fortunately for right now, that we don't really have too many people that are out there like trying to defraud you constantly. Probably also because the incentive mechanism for Lightning as well is pretty severe. If somebody's caught cheating, they lose all the money that they put into that channel. So if we created a channel of let's say £1,000 or something like that, and it just so happened that I own £200 of that and they own 800 of it. If they try to defraud me and then maybe take more of it, then I can take the full £1,000 back. So it's a pretty nice protocol to try to avoid cheating, but it's not perfect. So now I go into recovery mode. I'm trying to figure out what can I do. So I do some web searching, and I'm looking for ways really to make my hard drive work again. Maybe there's some like common SSD faults or something like that. There isn't. There's no obvious solution. I found an SSD recovery company, and I asked them roughly how much would it cost to get the data off it. And with a bit of extra probing, he told me roughly it would be about $350 on average to be able to recover an SSD after a conversation where he was basically explaining to me that it happens like all the time and all this sort of stuff. But he was going to do it with a no win, no fee. So he was going to suggest to me that I post my SSD through their delivery service. They would have a look at it, tell me what the cost would be, and then I could choose to get the data recovered or not. I wasn't ready to do that because I also wanted to potentially get some money back for warranty, because it's only been 2 years I've had this SSD and it went like that. I want some compensation there. So I tried Intel warranty. Turns out you don't go to the Intel warranty page to get your compensation. The website isn't very helpful. It just doesn't appear to work. So I ended up talking to their chat. They told me to go to this website, Solid IGM, and I tried to use their warranty page, and my product wasn't listed on their website either. Talked to their chat, and then they finally said, okay, we're willing to offer you $88. I tried to negotiate a little bit because that is less than what their warranty says that they should be giving me. Their warranty says I should be getting whatever the value of the product is, or a replacement, and they said we don't have a replacement.
How much is the hard drive new?
So if I would buy it today, it would be about $90 kind of, but maybe more. I can't remember. I did check on eBuyer and did the conversion to dollars, and I was like, this is less than. It was maybe $10 more, or more, yeah. And at the moment, I'm still going through the warranty process. After that little negotiation period, it was like, just to start it, just send me your address, and I did that, and then it was dead silence. And I was like, are they gonna do this or what?
Did you came, I know in college I had an SSD also break, I mean, there's this software, it's open source, it's well known, I don't remember the name, and it just looks at the bytes because the way the hardware does, you have reference pointers towards things, right? And if, depending on how the corruption is, it literally just looks for them. Did you ever try something like this?
So
Any tools like this?
it's like a brick now. You plug it
Oh,
in.
it doesn't even.
You plug it in, and it just gets hot, and it doesn't respond to a computer at all.
Wow.
So yeah, literally.
Yeah, I can't even mount it. You actually even said that. Yeah, that was up.
However, as part of setting up my node, I did set up some backup solution stuff, which is kind of recommended when you set it up. So I have this thing called a static channel backup, and I had them backed up to a cloud service called Nextcloud for data loss protection protocol. So let's talk a little bit about static channel backups. This binary file. It's about 11 to 17 kilobytes. When I was looking through all my backups, I have like historical ones. And my last backup happened to be the 19th of October, which was about 2 days before. It's kind of nice. The cloud account was free, so it didn't cost me anything there. And basically a new version will be created typically when you either open a new channel or you close a channel, but not when you're making payments or anything like that. Like it doesn't actually have any details about the balance between the two parties in those channels.
So what exactly is being backed up then?
The existence of the channel, the peer who you can communicate with.
And not the states though.
Not the state. But it gives just enough information that you can fire off to the other guy, hey, can you close the channel?
Oh, of course, I see.
Because without it, you've got these like multi-sig Bitcoin addresses. You only have one key, you don't know where the addresses are. It can be pretty hard to get your money back if you don't even have this. So then I had to find a laptop that could get Bitcoin Core running. This laptop doesn't have hardly any space.
Couldn't you do prune? Would it work prune also?
Yeah,
Because you just needed.
but this one had about 100 gigs free on it.
You can run it with 5 gigs a minimum, I think, or something like that.
I tried a secondary laptop I found, and it had about 450 gigs. So I thought that seems about right. I'm going to install and set up a full node on there. It turns out that you've not just got to download, well, when you do a download of create a full node, you're not just downloading blocks, but you're also indexing it. And that plus the index was still too big for my other laptop. So
How much was that roughly? Did you know?
I don't know, but it was more than that because it wasn't complete. So yeah, that's when I went ahead and I decided to make a pruned node. And when you change the settings and say give me a pruned node, it started all over again for whatever reason.
The reason is because he has to verify all the things. That's the reason.
But it already downloaded a bunch of stuff. I can just start with what it
Yeah, but you have to verify, like it looks at the blockchain, it has to make sure that all the things are valid, right?
So does that mean you don't need to run a full node with a lightning node? You can run it pruned?
Yeah.
What if you're opening a channel with UTXO that's outside of your pruned like database? Does that make sense?
So you'll always have a UTXO database, which has like all of the
full UTXO set?
Yeah, you'll have a full UTXO set.
Okay.
I think. I mean, I don't know the details, but I know that LND is compatible with it.
Okay, that's good to know.
But yeah, it took about. So yeah, the first time I tried to set up the node, it took about 5 hours, and then it kind of stopped. But it was close. It was close to being finished. When you run in prune mode, it takes a bit longer, and it took about a day. So once I got the node up and running, the next step was to get LND running on that same laptop. And just so happens there's a link at the top where you can read that, and it'll walk you through setting up an LND node and then also starting your recovery process. So I had a guy hold my hand, it was kind of nice. I had to reconfigure Bitcoin D, which is the program that the full Bitcoin full node, or true node in this case actually. I had to create a configuration file and start it as a daemon so that I could then communicate LND with Bitcoin and set that up. No connected over. No connected. The node is connected over ClearNet mostly. Yeah. So before I had my node connected over Tor mostly, it was trying to protect my IP address and things like that. In this case, I was still just wanting to get more money back. I wasn't really gonna. I was like, screw it, just connect. I used the command line, so I googled like the commands and stuff, and I got my I got it to close the channels, and then I got my closing transactions IDs. I went to mempool.space over Tor. Why not? It's easy enough to observe the transactions. But only a few channels were closed. Like I had a lot more channels. I had about 23. I mean, I actually had 32 channels. And I can't remember how many closed it in this case, but it was basically only the channels that I had connected over, like their nodes were ClearNet nodes, as in I was connected over to their IP addresses rather than their Tor addresses.
I mean, what's the purpose of relying on input space? Like,
I just want to see what I'm doing. It's like a visual aid to see what's happening.
yeah, but I mean, for the state of your transactions, you only care about the blocks, right? So,
No, so I just had the program close whatever channels they had. I wanted to see the channels in the mempool, and then I wanted to see when they confirmed.
transactions of your.
Yeah, that's what I was using it for. The actual stuff happening was on LND. Okay, so next thing is I wanted to check my balance. You know, I can't actually see my balance, so I typed in my 24 word, it was 12 words actually, 12 words into Blue Wallet. And it turns out, then it asked me for a decryption phrase, and I was like, what? I don't remember this. It turns out I did have a decryption phrase, and I did write it down. I just called it password D instead of decryption phrase. So I wasn't, I'd say when you're creating backups and things, pretend you're making it for someone else, maybe, instead of for you in the future, because you in the future is probably someone else. You're not going to remember.
Also, maybe don't share your password at a presentation in front of people.
What do you mean?
You just told us that you had password D.
That was what I called it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, as opposed to decryption
Okay,
phrase, right?
I thought you anyway.
No. But yeah, so first of all, actually, was how comes it's even asking for a decryption phrase? The only thing I knew about at the time really was the passphrases, and those are optional. It wouldn't even know if you needed one or not. So I did a little research and I realized LND uses a different type of backup mechanism. It's not BIP39 seed words and a passphrase. It uses a thing called AZ, and it has certain benefits that they were utilizing. I'm not going to go into exactly why they chose it or anything because I didn't really do that much research into that. But I worked that out.
There is a birthday. I mean, like, is it you have a birthday of the block height, and that way, I mean, your wallet doesn't have to pass all blockchains to find out your addresses.
I see. So it's like to make it easier and
Yeah,
faster.
no scan with the whole history.
Nice. I tried Sparrow Wallet to restore my words into there. That didn't work. Tried Blue Wallet for desktop. That didn't work. And Electron, that also doesn't support this type of seed word. Also, when I was looking at the transactions on like the transactions that I closed versus the transactions that are on my Blue Wallet, the ones that I had on my Blue Wallet were all BC1Q. They all started with that address, and all the new channels that are closed, they were going to BC1P addresses, which are effectively taproot addresses, the new Bitcoin address that was created or activated about exactly 1 year ago. The only thing I could find to do was I was using the command line. I found a command called lncli wallet list, and from there I could see details of the different types of addresses that the node was in control of, and I was able to get the XPub, and I could put that into Sparrow Wallet, and I could observe that, and I could see my balance. So at least now I feel kind of nice, like I can see my balance, all of it. I can see where things are, and I can see the closing transactions, which is nice. So yeah, I created a watch only wallet in Sparrow Wallet. So Tor channels. So as I said before, not all my channels closed. Most of my peers were connected over Tor. That means that I was connected to another person, node, and I had used a Tor address when I set that up. So I had to go online, figure out how to install Tor, and then I ran LND again with Tor enabled, because there is no built-in Tor client. There is no, like that. So, but for Ubuntu, which is what my computer was using, there is an official repository which you should be setting up, and you shouldn't be installing Tor just from Ubuntu using the standard apt install Tor. You should be following their guides, because otherwise you'll get like a slightly older, maybe less secure version of Tor running. So something to keep in mind. It turned out still not every single channel closed. I had about 8 remaining still. And one of them was actually connecting to a peer, but it wasn't closing. It was kind of annoying, but I tried to do a little bit of digging, tried to restart the software, tried a few things. It wasn't closing. So let's talk about zombie channels. Those 8 channels were effectively, except for that one that was connected, was a zombie channel, and that's where I've obviously gone offline. I'm no longer really running my node, but the other person who I created the channel with, they've also disappeared. They've also gone offline, and they know it. So I kept LND running for a few days, because sometimes people go offline and they come back online, and when they come back online, it would eventually close the channel. So I don't want to do anything drastic. I want to give people a chance to come back online. So I think I did this for like about a week. And then I found a website, noderecovery.com, and on there they give some good details of what to do, how to restore funds from a broken node, and it also will talk you through how to get money back, potentially from a zombie channel as well. When I was running my node, I knew I had these zombie channels. I'd heard about them. I planned to clean them up eventually. I just didn't because I was lazy. One of the channels I identified as CryptoCloaks, which is an online store, and I actually tried to reach out to them on Twitter. It turns out that they just decommissioned their node 6 months ago. And they have now like a CryptoCloaks V2 node running. But they had a channel with me still, and they hadn't closed it or anything. I asked if I could figure out how to get the funds out. Would they, do a 50-50 split with me? Because at the end of the day, a channel is just a multi-sig address on the Bitcoin blockchain. If the 2 parties can agree, you don't actually need the software. We can just sign a multi-sig transaction and take the money out. But then I did a bit more digging, and actually it turns out I had a channel DB backup on this laptop actually, from the 27th of August, which is about 2 months old. So yeah, followed the recommendations on node recovery. Some information about he recommends this tool called Chantools by Gagero. One thing to keep in mind is the tool calls blockstream.info. And it doesn't do anything over Tor or anything, it works over ClearNet. So you're going to link your transactions to your IP. If that's something that you're worried about, just keep that in mind. There probably is ways around that, but I didn't bother. And I carefully read and I performed every step along the way. I had to type my seed and my decryption phrase into the program. A lot of times it doesn't save it because I guess it's trying to not save things and make things more dangerous for me than it already is. And it closed 7 out of the 8 channels. And I needed to wait 600 blocks. I actually did a query to see what the block wait time was for all the channels, and the longest one was 600 blocks, so about 5 days. And remember the node that would connect, but it wouldn't close the channel? They revoked my, I was the bad guy. I closed the channel with 2 months old state, and they punished me.
I just want to point out something. The fact that you left the last 2 digits there, that's enough to completely identify, because there's not that many valid hashes that are gonna end in that. I'm just saying. You know what I'm
I
saying?
thought I actually blurred. Oh well, whatever. I
So
thought I blurred
you
that.
can figure that out pretty quick.
I did blur. I must have put the older versions of the image in, but whatever. You're not recording it, so we're good.
I mean, it's not a big thing, but yeah. 0, 1, 3, 1, 1.
So you're saying you closed the channel with an old state and they penalized you and so they got everything?
Yeah.
Alright.
Well, from that channel specifically.
Right.
And that happened to be that node that wouldn't close the channel for me. So it's almost like they're like, no, I'm not gonna close the channel, and then I close the channel, and they're like, nah.
Oh wow, that's fucked.
I mean, it's not quite like that, but yeah. Yeah, each step I followed, it would create like a JSON file, and I could actually have gone in there and taken out the details of that channel, and then as I progressed through the steps, it wouldn't have operated on that channel. That's probably what I should have done, but yeah, lesson learned. I didn't do that, and the tool actually closed one of the channels that was active, and not a zombie. So what about that last channel? There was still one channel left, which wasn't closing, and so I dug into that a little bit more. There's a thing called channel point that you can find about channels, and it effectively tells you where is the transaction that opened the channel. So I tried to look up the transaction on mempool.space, and it doesn't exist, which means it was probably a channel that was going to be created or something like that, and it never actually got created.
Sure, I didn't get last, but I don't understand what you mean. How come you had this somewhere if it didn't get created?
I'm assuming that like this might have been I don't know exactly how it happened, but all I know is it has a channel point. That's how you know where the channel is, where all the money for that channel is, and that channel point, the transaction doesn't exist on the blockchain, which means that it probably created the record, but then maybe failed to create the channel, or something went wrong halfway through, something like that. Yeah, maybe someone here can give details of what might have gone wrong, but all I know is it doesn't exist, so I'm going to just say that it was probably just a channel that tried to be created but didn't create, and I haven't lost any money from that. Gotcha. Alright, so I had Blue Wallet with all the BC1Q funds that I could withdraw, great. But I had a bunch of BC1P addresses now with funds, and I had no way to get that. Like I didn't know how I was going to withdraw that money. On Sparrow Wallet, I had created a watch-only wallet, which is like something that can see the funds, but it can't spend the funds. So Chan Tools, the same tool that I used to do the closing of the channels, the zombie channels, to the rescue. It also has a command called chantools.showRootKey. And what you can do is you can give it your AZ backup, so your 12 words and decryption key, and it will give you a bit 39. I think bit 39? I could get my bits wrong, but it'll give you the standard. Well, it actually doesn't even give you a 12-word backup. It gives you an expert. So it gives you a private key, basically. Something that you can actually import into Sparrow Wallet, so not even bit 39. So I imported it, and great, I could move all my funds to cold storage. And I did that, and I actually ended up doing moving funds from both the BC1P and the BC1Q addresses through Sparrow Wallet. And I stayed up all night watching mempool.space while they were getting confirmed, and while other transactions were getting ahead of mine, because I was only spending 1 sack of e-bike because I'm poor. Now watch out for gap limits. It just so happened that I noticed that there was still some funds left on when I was looking on Blue Wallet, but Sparrow Wallet didn't move all my funds. So it has a gap limit of 20, and I think there was about 42. There was a gap of 42 of addresses between like a used address and another used address. Yeah, if I didn't see that, I would have not realized that I got some funds left over that I hadn't paid back. So what's next? I want to get my $88. I'm still waiting on them. They're saying that their system is slow or something. I'll do it.
Maybe their lightning node also failed, and that's why.
Intel?
Yeah, maybe they have the same problem as you are running.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to decide on a new compatible SSD. When you create a lightning node on the Raspberry Blitz or Raspberry Pi, there are some SSDs don't work very well. They'll run slowly, and others are compatible. So I did a bit of research back when I created it the first time, and I actually I got it working fast. But this time I'll actually find like one that's been recommended that other people have used. Yeah.
The only problem was with the voltage though. You wanted one that, because some of them record like 1 point something, some of them around 2 point something. I think it's amperes actually, not volt. But anyway, and I think the Raspberry Pi always wants the one with lower requirements.
So I think there's that, but then there's also there's other things like certain protocols that it uses, and if it doesn't see like a feature on the device, it will use a slower protocol to communicate with the device, and it will actually run it slower than it can run. So it could run faster, but it doesn't.
Right.
And that's actually a problem when you're starting your node, when it's doing all that validation of all the blocks. It uses the disk quite a lot for that, and if that's slow, it takes like weeks or maybe a month to download the blocks. When if you have a fast one, then it might take a few days or a week.
So this is just something with that SATA connector or something like that, or what? Or is it just like how the hard drive is built?
I think it's more like something to do like drivers and stuff like
Right,
that.
right.
But it has to be a feature that exists on the SSD as well, and the enclosure as well. So
Gotcha.
I'm gonna look into CLN's backup strategies. I hear that they have a bit more of a live backup solution, which means that instead of backing up just the static channel backups, I might be actually backing up the channel space as and when they change, when the balances change. If not, I'll also look into I'll consider making daily backups of the channel DB, so that if this happens again, I was just really lucky that I had found a channel DB that was 2 months old. But obviously it's the last resort thing. Still, don't use it unless you absolutely have to, but at least have it. And I think I'll be more aggressive against zombies going forward as well. So if I see that there are other nodes that are offline for maybe a period of time, maybe a few days, I might decide to just close those channels. I had metrics. I had like little scripts and things that were showing me graphs of the CPU temperature, the hard drive, and other related data. All that information was on the SSD. So that would have been my first call of action. Like, what's been going on? Has it been overheated? I didn't have any of that. It was kind of annoying. My channel DB backup was used as a last resort. If I had used it any earlier, I had one channel force close penalize me, but I could have had a lot more. So keep that in mind. The SSD is effectively bricked, and it's only been 2 years running. But basically, when you plug it in now, it makes like a really small beep noise, flatline beep, and it gets hot within a few seconds, and I have no idea what exactly was wrong with it. So I can't really do anything about that. I can't even make any improvements based on that information. But maybe it's worth getting 2 SSDs, maybe one smaller one just for like backups. If I'm not going to use like a cloud, because for maybe the channel database backups, but also for things like the metrics that I had about the CPU and the hard drive. If that big one goes kaplunk, at least I've got similar information I can debug with somewhere else. And maybe that hard drive won't use that much, so it's less likely to go bad as well. And just a side note as well, I actually managed to recover about 800 quid from zombie channels. So that's how bad I was about like not closing them.
Can you tell us how much percentage-wise did you lose out of what you had?
No. I specifically didn't write that down, so I can't.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, after all that, yeah, I think I need and I think I deserve a drink. So cheers, let's go to the pub.
Yeah.